Good morning and happy Friday, everybody. This is a battle in my AVRE from the 24th of June, and don't worry, the whole thing is not from the replay. However, this battle was extremely long, and I actually had to get just a little bit of recording from a replay at the beginning here because the whole thing went duration. Spoiler, but not really a spoiler. In fact, the entire video length before I did any editing today was 25 minutes and 40 seconds long, so that'll show you how much time I trimmed out of it. And as usual, when you see the fade transitions, that's when you know I trimmed some time out. So without much further ado, let's get on to the battle and see what happened with the AVRE and how I held the line in this battle mode battle on my mostest, favoritist, bestest everest map, 38th parallel. But hey, at least they updated the thumbnail for it. So, just grinding out, enjoying the test drive while I have it, really, and wanted to get a little more 165mm derp cannon footage for you guys because, boy, it is sweet. I will probably purchase the AVRE for myself after the expiration of my test drive. I don't do that with every test drive I get, but I have, in fact, enjoyed the AVRE enough that I think I actually will go ahead and buy it for myself. I don't even really need it for grinding, but boy, it is lots of fun. So I established myself in this defensive position here and watched the village and just held on. Not a whole lot happened, so we'll skip ahead a bit to actual activity. So getting some warnings on the map about an enemy being across the way from me. Haven't spotted anything yet, but the alert has been given, the crew is ready for action, and we're observing. Now, I don't know about the accuracy of the spotting here from the team, so not sure if they actually saw something specifically where they were spotting, or they're just spotting a general, hey, it's across the river from you over there somewhere. So, kind of ready for anything. Took a range measurement, and there we go. Made sure I had my range lined up right, took a hit, which knocked out a couple crew members and damaged my breach, but thankfully I took out old Sir Bias with the first round there. And then set up to repair and fired off artillery just to cover myself further from across the river. Just in case any enemies were coming up behind that Sir Bias. I'm very pleased that I get double launches of smoke grenades here, which is quite handy for covering yourself during a long repair such as this. Enough smoke to get fully repaired, and then we'll come back when the reload is finished and we've got a little more activity going on. This battle was really slow paced, but that's kind of the way I prefer battle type maps to go. Everybody on the team sitting tight, letting the enemy come to us. They mostly did it this game, although not completely, as you'll see. So we've suffered quite a few losses from the team that had extended past the bridge, so I relocated to try and find myself a slightly better position where I could see a little more of our friendly capture zone here. Also, I figured might as well pick up an extra crew member while I'm just sitting back here defending the zone. And refill my smoke canisters because, well, why not? We do have a fresh load of reinforcements coming in from our spawn, so that's good. And enemies being marked, so holding back and waiting for any possible sightings to blurp into oblivion with the 165 Hashomatic. So there's still quite a few enemies left, but I thought maybe it would be a prudent time to extend our range a little bit past, extend our defensive bubble a little past the actual capture zone. I don't know what happened with that PE-8. He got shot down by a Centurion and apparently never got his bomb off, so good for us, I guess. So definite enemy contact coming up around here, so ready for a little bit more action. Both teams have suffered some losses and thought I thought to myself, this is as good a time as any to push out a little, see if we can meet them a little further away from our capture zone in combat and knock a few of them out, and then perhaps extend the perimeter far enough into capturing their zone. I've got a relatively competent assault vehicle here, and between the mine plow and the ERA on it, why not? Let's push in and see what we can do. So an enemy had been spotted up here in front of me. I wasn't exactly sure where he was. I had just seen a red mark that could have been moving in any direction. And when my artillery didn't score any hits or mark anybody, I figured, okay, well, we'll proceed slowly because at least there's a whole ton of dirt thrown up. And we've got an Object 120 somewhere that's starting to take people out. And that could be a potential issue. And there we go. There's the guy that we saw getting shot, is SPAA just down here past me. It was a DCA 40. It got taken out by our Conqueror, and well, that was that. I took a little bit of a peeky peek through the valley here that I could see while I was relatively covered from my sides. Didn't see any obvious enemies. And then pushed forward again to see what I could run into. Looking for trouble, as it were. Now you can see a shot right down there, but I'm not sure if it was our artillery at first and then realized, okay, it's a friendly up there firing. So it's the guy on the other side of the river. You can see what he's hitting there on the mini-map. So let's go forward and do some harm. No sign of the Object 120 that had been taking my guys out, so I know he's around here somewhere because of where my guys were getting knocked out. And there's a Panther II destroyed, so took up position in a pretty well, decently camouflaged spot right here where I am. Got my artillery prepped for the most likely hiding spot for the Object 120, fired it off on him up there, and then sat and held position here, waiting for the Object 120 to reveal himself by either movement or firing. And then my plan was to move up, start decapping their zone, drop smoke out on the other side to cover myself, and then hopefully capture the point. So this Object 120 up here has taken a couple guys out, and of course nobody's saying anything about where he is. Now there's an Object 906 somewhere that's also taking guys out, and that's a bit of a concern as well. But there's the 120 driving up onto the bridge. I blurp him out of action, back up a little bit to complete my reload, and then I will move in and start decapping the point and see if we can't end this battle. Which, I mean, obviously, since you guys know this battle went to duration, that's probably not the way it's going to go yet, because it hasn't been near enough time. So again, asking the team, hey, where's this other guy that killed someone? Somebody has to know where he is. The guy who just got killed has to know where the 906 is. I mean, I'm assuming, based on it being an amphibious tank, that it's probably near the water somewhere. But that's not 100% certainty. And there's something getting marked back behind us. Being marked by my friend in the AVRE production back there, who's the only guy back on our side of the river. And that will definitely come into play. So I know I've got my back pretty well covered by the Conqueror behind me, and there went both an Object 120 and the aforementioned Object 906 in a suicide bombing by our Typhoon. Again, great, it worked out well for my team, but I mean, we can do better than that. Now, maybe he was damaged, but I didn't see him getting shot down, so I don't know. I asked back to the AVRE production if there's actually enemy on our side, because I didn't see any markings of any enemies, but the guys marked the spot there. And nobody's typing anything. They're clicking on the map, which is good, but they're not giving any expanding information like, hey, there's an enemy or this or that. Now there's a guy getting marked up here by my friend in the Conqueror right next to me, and it looks a likely spot for somebody to be up on top of the bridge. So I put my artillery up there, and then I'm going to return back to our friendly territory against the probable enemy that's on our side of the river. My artillery actually hit the guy up on the bridge. I can see where my artillery's hitting. I'm going to try and get a peek at the guy that's taking hits up there, but as it turns out, I can't quite get a shot at him, or see him, in fact, where he is. I'm getting hits on him, and then I realize it's because he's down below the bridge. He's not up above it, so I have no shot at him, and I'll leave him to my teammates that are up there with him. Now there is an AMX-50 knocking out a teammate right on our side of the bridge, so something is back on our side of the map where it can see our guys. And the AVRE production is calling him out and marking him, which that's where I'm heading back to help deal with this guy. Is there's an AMX-50 back on our side of the river somewhere taking our guys out, and we're down to actually 4 guys now and just 1 back at our spawn, so our position got suddenly very precarious. There's a lot more on the enemy team left than there is on our team, so now I hear shooting going on. It turns out it's friendlies knocking out the enemy back behind me to my right, so good there. The guy in the Object 906 is back in a spare Object 906, and he took out the Conqueror that was right back behind me, so presumably he's not necessarily in a dangerous spot, but he's probably right next to B because someone is recapturing it, and that's most likely where the guy is. An M56 there takes out a Waffenträger, which was probably what I was hitting with my artillery, I think. And they recapture B, which was most likely the Object 906. So I'm trying to scan for whatever enemy there was that had made it to our side of the river, and hoping that the M56 is going to cover anything crossing over their side of the bridge to come up behind me. And I can hear airplanes. I see the Object 906 get marked on the mini-map by probably a hit from the Object 906, or maybe a strafing. Our AVRE production is marking the guy, but he's not marking in the right spot, which I know for sure now. But at the time, I was trusting his marking and figuring the guy had to be behind the little stone huts there that I couldn't see around, and was probably sitting just outside of our cap, just basically camping on anybody coming out of our spawn. Not spawn camping specifically, but I figured he was right up there where I had been initially sitting, behind those rocks, waiting for anybody to come down out of our spawn and pick off easy kills. But I can't see him from where I am back here. And we've got a Wyvern who just took out an enemy, which was good, but doesn't really help me with spotting this enemy who's up here. Our AVRE production is sitting back there, obviously safe, so wherever this enemy is up here, he either doesn't think he can hurt the AVRE production, or he's not in a position where he can see it and do anything to it, so when the Wyvern dropped his bombs, I thought maybe the Wyvern could see the enemy over there, but I believe he just dropped his bombs because he was about to crash and explode anyway, so. Now an IS-6 has taken out our M56 back across the river, so I suspect shortly I will have an IS-6 to deal with coming up from behind me. But I'm in a pretty good spot here, and I'm assuming that the IS-6 will come around through the village where the capture point normally is, farther off to the west, and probably come up that side, since that's leads directly to where our capture point is. So that was kind of what I was banking on here as I sat and waited and tried to locate our friend across the river.
The gun crew is ready.
So I moved into a slightly better spot to hide myself from the IS-6 coming along. Fired my artillery off where I suspected the guy on our side of the river to be, based on the spotting intelligence that I was getting from our friend in the AVRE production and the fact that our AVRE production wasn't getting shot. And then just held off here and waited for something to develop. We're kind of in the position here with just 3 of us left where we sort of really need to just let them come to us rather than pushing into their trap. And I very faintly heard an engine off to my left, so I know something is nearby. So now the game is afoot. An enemy airplane goes overhead. It's not really a threat to me, thankfully. It doesn't come in and strafe me. And there is the AMX-50 taking out another guy who was back up near our spawn, but he didn't shoot him until he moved forward out of the spawn. So that tells me he's not where I thought he was, and he's somewhere else. So my artillery was kind of a waste. Now the enemy has moved into the A spot to start capping it, and there he is. I see him. He is through the capture point, and what's this? Why, it's IS-6 camo. I think I can make this shot. I think I was right. I present to you one of the best shots I've ever made with low velocity rounds. Now, I need to move in and take out our friend in the AMX-50 and figure out where he is, but I'm not doing that before I reload. So, our guy who just got killed and then just apparently left the battle there in first place should have known where the AMX-50 was, but he left the battle without saying anything, so the best I could do after I start taking artillery hits here was fire off smoke and then push forward again. Now, I don't know whether I got artilleried by the AMX-50 or the Object 906 that should still be alive, but I wasn't about to hang out and find out. So I fired off both of my smoke rounds and moved up into a position where I could hopefully try and spot this AMX-50, and fired artillery where I suspected him to be, which was up in this little, I don't know what you want to call it, that little compound up on the top of the roof there, top of the hill. Because that seemed like the most likely place for him to be, where he could not see the whole reproduction and couldn't see our teammates until they got out of the actual little valley exit. And my guess was proven correct this time, as I got a hit on him with my artillery. Moved into position to try and spot him up there, and got ready to let him have it as soon as he showed his face. And kind of hoped that the whole reproduction move, and there he was, and unfortunately I fired just a little bit low. But on the plus side, better a little bit too low than a little bit too high, because with a shell that big, you're going to throw up a whole mess of dirt and smoke and debris, and that keeps him from seeing me, thankfully. So, sat back, waited for my reload, waited to reload my smoke shells, and waited for him to show his face again. In the meantime, while I was reloading both smoke shells and main ammunition, I fired smoke behind me so I could relatively safely deal with this AMX-50 and not have to worry about getting shot from behind by any other late joiners to the capturing here. So moved back up to the spot where I knew he would pop out again, made sure I was aiming high enough this time, and as soon as he showed enough of his face, let him have it. And apparently there's something really close to our friend in the Ho reproduction. Most likely going to be the Object 906. So fired off a little more smoke to cover myself. Reloaded my smoke shells and waited for my artillery to reload. And then got ready to fire my artillery a little bit farther, hoping that if this enemy couldn't be engaged by the Ho reproduction, that it would be close enough that it would be moving up the river underneath his gaze, and hopefully my artillery would hit him. If my artillery doesn't hit him, at least my artillery should be far enough away from the Ho reproduction that it won't hit him either. And it turns out he either tried to engage our Ho reproduction or the Ho reproduction engaged him, but regardless, the Ho reproduction took him out, and that was the end of a pretty dangerous little speedy light tank. And after that, with just the two of us left, I backed off in a defensive position and got ready to just hold the line against the enemy, because that's all we can do at this point. Wait for them to come to us at A and blast them to oblivion. And then right as I'm trying to move, I got hit in the side by a ZSU-57, unfortunately. So came back in the Vickers, and then changed my mind and came back in the Centurion. Came back in the Centurion ultimately because my Centurion has artillery, and I could put artillery down on the cap and hope that my Ho reproduction was able to move in and knock out the ZSU-57 before I was able to. So I figure the amount of time it's going to take them to capture, I've actually got time to move up to the same defensive spot where the AMX-50 had been trying to catch our guys from behind. And I should have a pretty good chance to see the ZSU-57 and be relatively protected in case he spots me first. So clearly he's either pushed forward into our side of the map or he backed off and is away hiding because of my artillery. But either way, he's no longer capping. And I can sit here with relative impunity, and then all of a sudden the time ran out and we won. So that was a very unexpected finish to the battle. Kind of anticlimactic, I know, but it paid out well enough. Relatively speaking. I think I should have scored... I should have gotten more with the with the AVRE, but I believe, again, it's I'm not getting the full score because it's a test drive. At any rate, I'm not complaining about 4,000 research and 4 kills, a capture, and held them off for almost the entire battle. Along with probably my best shot with a low-velocity shell on that IS-6. Held it off till the very end of the battle, and we ended up winning, so works for me. Anyways, thank you all very much for stopping by and checking this one out. I hope you guys all have a great weekend. We'll see you soon. Don't forget to stop by and check out the stream for the Battle of Britain. And we'll see you all next time. Have a great day, everyone.